All right, thank you for that lovely introduction. Yeah, I actually teach ukulele here at uni as a gift to my uni, so that the students, when they leave here, they can leave with a degree and a musical instrument. Because those of you who are involved in music will know how wonderfully relaxing it is and how much fun it is to share music. So that trip to Hawaii, if there's any beginners ukulele lessons, go for it, girl. You and your girls will absolutely love it. I have the privilege of studying here at Southern Cross University on the Gold Coast with the beautiful Kay Danes, which is where I met her. Yay! A couple of years ago at our orientation. So we've formed a very strong friendship because of that. Shared experiences, different experiences, but a similar life goal and life vision. So for that, I'm very grateful. So thank you for inviting me to share with you the story of the day that changed my life, which was in 1995. I was 35 and working as a sales rep and account manager for the dive equipment company at Byron Bay, which is halfway down the Australian coast. There it is. See the dot there, halfway down? Yes. It's also the most easterly point of Australia. And where we live on the Gold Coast, which is, see Burleigh Heads up the top there? Coolangatta is where I am now at the university, and so Byron Bay is about an hour or so south since they put the freeway in. And so we would supply dive equipment to all the shops in Australia and the South Pacific, and every year we would have a conference where we would invite our key dealers to come over to Byron Bay. We'd give them some sales and marketing training, and then we'd give them a brand new set of dive gear and we'd go out to the Julian Rocks and we would go diving there. So the Julian Rocks is a fabulous marine reserve, and it's got all sorts of marine life living there, big and small. And because it's a reserve, you get to see huge fish in great quantities, as it hasn't been fished out. And Byron's famous for its lighthouse. It's very beautiful. That's the most easterly point of Australia. And out from the beach at Byron Bay, the Julian Rocks, which you can see there. So because of the orientation, and it is actually a cape, so it has a north and a easterly aspect, so there's always a wave depending on where you are, and people come from all over the world to travel out to the Julian Rocks. So that last graphic there is a picture of the Julian Rocks and two of the local dive boats that are moored up to the moorings there in the area. They have moorings so that they don't have to throw anchors down, which damage all the fragile marine life underneath. So here's a little picture of just some of the things that we see when we go diving at Byron. Very friendly turtles. All the animals there are very used to people because there's about 20 boats a day go out there. You can see the leopard sharks. I was out there on Saturday and I got to dive with these beautiful leopard sharks. They're very docile. They're creamy and have got spots on them and they haven't got any teeth, and they sit on the bottom and you can actually go up and tickle them. They're about 5 feet long. And there's also the grey nurse sharks, which look super scary because they've got teeth that stick out. But they're very, very docile, and we actually go down there with our cameras and we actually have to sneak up on them very quietly if we want to photograph them. They're very, very docile. They just look scary because they've got big teeth. So we were down there on June the 3rd, and we went out in the dive boats. We actually had 2 of the dive boats chartered. We had about 14 divers on board, and they're all diving experts and dive masters or instructors from around Australia. So there you've got to launch the boats on the beach. So it's a bit cumbersome, but they do it all the time. So we headed out with 2 boatloads and we went out to the Julian Rocks, and there we were, and you can see that little red X there, and that's where we were anchored. So we were moored up there, and so we're all hopping in to do a great dive, which we did. We had a really fun dive. And I even had a friend that was a violinist, and I said, hey, let's give them all a surprise when you come up. You and I come up early and play some violin. It'll be the first time ever for these dive professionals they've ever surfaced and they've had a violin in the boat. So we did that, having a great time. The other boat from the other dive centre in town went over to Kendrick's Reef, which is also known as Spot X. So we had this wonderful dive. And when we surfaced, we got a call for help over the radio, and it was something like this. It was, mayday, 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 shark attack, mayday. And we all looked at each other and we couldn't believe it. And I said to Jeff, who was the skipper of our boat, I said, Jeff, did Roger say it was a shark attack? And he said, sounded like it. And we're all shaking our heads going, no, it couldn't be. And Jeff said, well, I've never heard Roger use that voice before, so we're going straight over. And of course, all the boats and the skippers knew each other. We're all friends in the dive industry. So we up-anchored, and halfway over, Jeff and our crew stopped the boat. And I said to him, what are you doing? Why are you stopping? Because I could see in the distance over there, probably about 100 feet away, I could see Roger in the boat pulling up the anchor line, and I could see a girl in the back making very anguished hand signals. So I said, what are you doing? Why aren't we going over there? He said, Sal, do as I say. Put your eyes on that girl. Do not take them off. And he was using a very serious skipper's voice. So I said, I'll do that. I didn't know what he was doing. So after about a minute or so, I could hear they were fluffing around on the other side of the boat doing something, but I was following orders. So I said, listen, I'm going over to help her. And they said, well, I said, I'm going in, I'm going to swim over. And they said, well, aren't you going to put your fins on, you know, flippers, dive fins? And I said, well, I can swim that far. And they said there was a shark. So I thought, oh, okay, so I put my fins on and I dive over and swim over. I climbed up the back of the boat. I got into the boat and I put my arms around this girl and I said to her, I said, I'm Sal. I'm a dive instructor. If you tell me what's happened, I'll know what to do. So, big hug. She said, John and I were diving. We came up a long way back from the boat. So we lost our bearings. We came up a long way back from the boat. We came up to the surface. The boat was way off. Instead of swimming back to the boat, we made the decision to go down and do a safety stop, which is where you wait at 3 metres. And that eliminates the onset of decompression sickness if you've been diving too deep for too long. So I went back down. And Debbie said, then this huge grey nurse shark came up to us, swam around us, went away. It was huge. It was the size of a combi van. And then it came back around again, and then it swam up to me. And John pushed me out of the way, and the shark swam onto John and took him away. And I said, a shark? She said, yes, it was a huge grey nurse. And I said, a grey nurse? She said, yes, it was huge and it was grey. And I went, grey nurse aren't grey, they're brown and they're very docile. And then I realised what it was. It was a great white. Great white had come up to her. John knew what it was, pushed her out of the way, sacrificed his life to save hers. And then she said, we're on our honeymoon. So, did anyone get a chill then? Yeah, I did too. I felt like Sylvester the cat in the cartoons when he gets fright, goes like that, turns into ice cubes, tinkles down into a pile. And so I thought, what can I possibly do to help this girl? She said, I'm alone. We're on our honeymoon. So I said, I'm going to stay with you. You're not going to be alone. I'm going to stay with you for as long as this takes. It takes half a day, a week. I'm going to stay with you. You're not going to be alone. I'm going to stay with you until your parents come back, until your parents come, because they were from Sydney, which is a long way from here. So we stayed in the boat. An ambulance driver came out. Police came out. Another dive boat came out. And then we were taken back in with the ambulance. We sat in the back of the ambulance for a while. And then we left the ambulance and Debbie said, I just want to go and tidy up all our clothes. So we went back to their holiday cabin, which is on the beach, and there were John's undies on the floor, his shoes, his socks. We packed up his little life that was there but had now gone, put it into bags, went back, sat on the beach, and then all the press started coming around, and there were reporters everywhere, and we were sort of hiding up the other end so no one could see us. Basically, I was just trying to keep Debbie safe. And then the police came back and said, can you come to the police station so we can take a statement. So we went to the police station, and Debbie said, I want to talk to John's parents. I want to tell him what's happened. And the police officer said, look, we can't stop her from doing that, but we really don't want her to do it, because when their parents hear their son has died, they could say anything to her. They could say, it's your fault. You should have, blah, blah. You shouldn't have taken him diving, or anything. They could have said harsh, painful words that would have just come out and that could have haunted her more for the rest of her life. So they asked me to talk her out of that, which I did successfully. And then through that conversation with her parents, the parents said, she said, I just keep waiting for John to come back. And they said, he's not coming back. And she said, well, how do you know? And they said, because they've found remains. And she said, I don't believe them. I want to see them. And so once again, the police said, you do not want to see what we have, what we've found, what was recovered. And so we took her out of that too, so, which was great. So by this time, the press was there, choppers were around, the other sundive boat had launched and had divers at the back of the boat ready to go in, trying to, I guess they didn't really believe what had happened either. So they were going to go and find John or find something and bring them back for Debbie. But as they geared up at the back of the boat, the big shark was interested in all the noise and activity that was going around all of a sudden. So it came up at the back of the boat, like in Jaws, and just scared the daylights out of all the rest of the other dive instructors. And they ran up to the front of the boat, and that was the first time they'd actually seen the shark, the size of it, because it was a very big one. And Roscoe, the skipper of that boat, he straight out, he said, we're going to need a bigger boat. So the police sergeant was also with them on the boat, and seeing the size of the shark, and they realised they couldn't do anything. They couldn't shoot or anything safely because of the danger of ricochet. So they called up the local fisherman. And he came and put out a big bait, and they actually managed to hook the big shark. And they pulled the shark up to the back of the boat eventually. And the shark came up to the back of the boat, the fisherman's boat, and rolled round and round and round like a crocodile does. And during that process, it brought up John's torso from there to there. So that was what had been recovered and what Debbie did not want to see. So we stopped her from seeing that. And then the shark rolled and rolled again, and the trace broke, and the shark went off, was mortally wounded. And the Coast Guard plane said they saw a big shark rolling around in the surf about 20 miles up the coast the next morning. The whole shark attack behaviour thing was extremely random. While John and Debbie were down there, the rest of their dive boat was also down there, but they were down by the mooring. So there were still about 8 divers in the water there. So if it had been like Hollywood, like a Jaws movie, the shark would have come and just eaten everyone. But it didn't. It picked up John. See, with people, if we see something that we think's tasty, we can go, ooh, that might be nice to eat, and we can touch it with our hands, and that's our sensory organs, and straight away we know, oh, it's not a food source. But with a shark, they've either got their dorsal fins or this, and when a shark that big does this to anything soft, basically, it's gone, which is why no one else got injured that day. When I was on the boat comforting Debbie, before we were taken into shore, Jeff, the skipper of the boat, put on his dive gear, jumped into the water, swam over to the boat, and he said, don't you worry, darling, I'm going to go find John. I'll bring him back for you, because Debbie was screaming, bring John back. So Jeff went into the water and he dived down. Halfway down, so it's in about 70 feet of water. Halfway down, someone just came in the room. Halfway down, the big shark came past Jeff and looked at him, and Jeff realised potentially how much trouble he was in, but the shark just swam by, looked at him and kept going because it knew it had made a mistake. Jeff went down to the bottom, had a look around because he promised he'd look for Debbie, came back up again, and the shark swam past him again. Once again, it was real life, it wasn't a movie. So Jeff was safe. And then Jeff surfaced. When he surfaced, his boat had been moved. And he screamed out of him, get that boat back here right now. So they got the boat back and he flew over the side of the boat, which is about 3 foot high, in full scuba gear, which is about 50 pounds, 60 pounds of gear on his back, flew over the side of the boat, got his weight belt hooked on the railing on the side, kicked like blazes to get in. They got him in there. And then he said to them, that's a very big shark. So Jeff went in the water. He was very, very brave. The police officers on the case that day nominated Jeffrey and I for bravery awards. So 18 months later, we were invited to Government House to receive bravery awards. And there we were mixing with people who were getting Orders of Australia for 30 years of dedication to hockey or for nursing or wonderful things. And Jeffrey and I just looked at each other and went, oh, geez, I feel like such an imposter because, you know, all we had was a big day, you know, in the water. But other people seemed to see great value in what we'd done. So that was very touching. So here we are at Government House. Here's Jeff, a mighty man, even though he was slightly smaller in stature than myself. That's the aide-de-camp on the left, who was also a diver, so he was very keen to talk with us. And that gorgeous girl on the right is Debbie Ford. So it was a very happy time. Because John Ford did not get a bravery award because there was only one witness, which was Debbie, I had the opportunity to tell John's story of courage to everyone, all the dignitaries, all the bravery award recipients, all the Order of Australia, and to the Governor himself about how brave John was. And then people were able to come over and congratulate Deb and to show her love and support, which was so humbling. So here's Jeff and I coming out with our bravery awards, all a bit surprised, a bit, oh my goodness, you know, this is all so overwhelming. So there was a lot of fun and a lot of happiness involved. But the side to every coin, one side is good, one side's not always so good. And this is where the PTS came in. So has anyone here had any experience personally with PTS? Yeah. So post-traumatic stress used to be called a disorder. Some people call it disorder, but it's not a disorder. It's nothing's broken. It's just that your body has developed new coping mechanisms to deal with traumatic experiences which have come into your life unexpectedly. And your trauma can be caused by illness. It can be caused by bereavement. It can be caused by seeing something that's visually shocking, and it can be caused by experiencing something where you that was so unusual or so frightening or so upsetting that your body can't cope with things normally. Sometimes it lasts a little while, sometimes it lasts a lifetime. I can well say that everyone involved with that shark attack had PTS, including myself. Symptoms like headaches, nausea, feeling sick, getting goosebumps, getting shivers, you know, still putting together this talk, because this is the first time I've presented this talk in a formal fashion like this. So I've been putting all this together, and my stomach's been churning. I'm at goosebumps. I'm going, come on, 25 years. But, you know, the memories are still there and they're still very real. But I share the story because it's a story of courage, it's a story of kindness, and it's a story of inspiration. And I also get to tell everyone and find people about John Ford, about his contribution. So I got PTS and I couldn't eat. So for the next 10 days, I just stopped eating, which is pretty unusual for me. And I felt like myself on the outside, but on the inside, I just felt like I had a scaffold in there. And so my friends would say, come on, Sal, let's go out to have some Mexican. Oh, this is good. Try some of this. And I was going, oh, it looks really good, but really I just like a cup of tea. And so it took me 10 days to work out that I had to stop this because otherwise it was going the wrong way. And so my sister, who's a natural therapist, did some relaxation and hypnotherapy and kinesiology on me and got down to the cause of the problems that were causing it and helped me basically progress. And I've talked to a lot of people about it since then, and we've all shared strategies, which have been wonderful, and it's also been quite empowering. But because I have this experience with PTS, it puts me in a great insider aspect to be able to help other people with that, which comes to the next part of my story. Tell me if I'm going over time, won't you? So here's how I found my life purpose. So some years after we received our Bravery Awards, in fact it was in 2000, 2 Bravery Award recipients identified the need to offer peer support to others who'd been through shocking experiences. We didn't want it to come from an area of, I'm a psychologist and I studied this, so therefore talk to me and I'll know what to do, because it's not always appropriate, and the level of understanding, depth and clarity does not exist. So by opening up a peer support group, the Australian Bravery Association was founded. And in 2004, I started looking after the Queensland cohort. So basically what I do is I organise events every year, which are fun events for people who've got Bravery Awards, where they can get together, be with people who know what PTS feels like, where they've walked in their shoes. Some of them are still walking through them. I connect them with mentors who've had similar experiences, and I create a lot of happy times in life after rescue. We also go to Government House, which is Government House Brisbane here, and me and my man bag there on the right, Senior Sergeant Michael Pearson, good friend of Kay's and mine. He's a lovely, lovely bloke. And he also has 3 Bravery Awards for taking bombs outside. And, just devastating things. I've got a ton of talks, ton of inspirational people. But Mike helps me because he's very involved in his community, has a lot of community resources that can help with our people. So we get to frock up and we get to meet all the new recipients at Government House, because there we see the rescuers and I know who I can connect them with to help them up. And I also, since 2008, have been chair of the Brave Youth of Australia Association, the Brave Youth of the Year Award. So I have the pleasure of meeting the families of the brave kids who were 18 or less at the time of their rescue event. This little chap on the left there is getting his award. He suffered catastrophic brain injuries rescuing his little brother who ran out in front of a 4-wheel drive. So Callan Hoad, Calynhoad, has a remarkable story. I'd be happy to send you links on his stories later on. This little family here, those 5 little kids saved their mother, who was shot by their stepfather and had her arm nearly blown off. That's another amazing story I can tell you about sometime. Those kids all received Bravery Awards. The youngest received his Bravery Award for doing a rescue at 4, where he grabbed his little sister, who was a baby, and hid her under the bed to protect her. On the top there are 3 of our brave girls. One of the sisters there pulled her little sister out from her car, which had been smashed by a heavy vehicle and was concertinaed. No one could get in, but Jade L got in there. And you see these Bravery Awards that we're wearing, they're all red. And red signifies the colour of blood spilt on behalf of another. That's the Bravery Awards in Australia. Oh, who's that cheeky looking chick down the bottom there? That's my partner in crime. If anyone knows about bravery and courage, it's our Kay. So Kay is one of our mother hens and aunties in that, and she helps me with our kids, our people, and we brainstorm good ideas for good events and good strategies for helping our people in the Bravery Association. So that's how I turned my lemons into lemonade, because I often wonder, why was I there and what was the point in that? But then, now I know, because I'm going to be involved looking after the Bravery Association for the rest of my life.
Big job.
And this is not quite yet, not quite.
Oh.
I got it. Not quite.
Hold the applause.
Thanks. So this is what I do. I still dive. I still like putting my head into black holes underwater. It's on a shipwreck ex-Navy wreck. I love teaching people ukulele at uni and getting up and doing gigs and dressing up like rat bags and having lots of fun. I love playing in the orchestra with my flute and my girls. We play all sorts of community events, Christmas carols. And I love the fact that I dropped out of school in 1974 and they let me into uni when I was 52, and now I've got 2 master's degrees and I'm doing a PhD. No one is more surprised than me. And that's how I met Kay.
And Ray.
Yeah, and Ray and the crew. So let me tell you about Jeff. Remember I told you that we stopped the boat on the way over and I never knew why he stopped the boat? He dived into the water to pick up John's remains. So he knew that John was already dead because he was picking up his lungs on the other side of the boat, but he did not want me to see that, which is why he said, "Not take your eyes off that." So Jeff saved me a lot of pain and grief. But I didn't know that until some years ago. One of Australia's finest journalists wrote a book about bravery and he told our stories. And it wasn't until I read that I saw that Jeff had protected me from that. Now, Jeff didn't talk much about the rescue with anyone, but our friendship was very, very close after that. And I'd go down and see him at Lismore, where he lived. And but we would talk about the rescue. And one thing that Jeff told me a while back was very sad. He said, "You know, Sally, I still don't think I did enough at that rescue." And the concept was so preposterous. And I went, "Ha ha, very funny." He said, "No, I'm serious, Sal." I said, "Jeff, John was dead when we got there. John had already died." And he said, "My head tells me that, but my heart tells me I didn't do enough." And that ate away at Jeff. And I'm convinced that that's why he got bone cancer and died years ago. So Jeff went into the water knowing that John was already dead. He put his gear on. He swam over to Debbie and he said, "Don't worry, darling, I'll go down and find him for you." So he put himself through all of that and he faced that shark twice just to help Debbie. So how's that for a remarkable man? So here's our story, and here's the story of many other remarkable rescuers in a wonderful book that the Bravery Association has. The Bravery Association doesn't have any government funding. It doesn't have any bursaries or grants or anything, but it has volunteers like myself who will get in there and do the work that they can. We're not very good at asking for donations, but Kay is. So Kay's asked me to put all of this in. It's a call out for if anyone would like to support a wonderful not-for-profit that does wonderful work supporting our best rescuers. There's a website up there where you can have a look at it. There is a bank account number where you can have a look at it and some information about that. But our stories are in there and the book is so compelling. I challenge anyone to be able to read them all without, without putting a book down. And I say that, and that's a hard thing to do because I could read a bit and then I had to put it down. And then I'd go back and read a bit more and put it down. But the thing is, they're absolutely all true. So if anyone would like to do any sponsorship at the Bravery Association, got a spare $100, it would do a lot of good. And you know what? Anyone who donates over $100, we'll send them a Brave book too as a gift. So I think that's it. I think that's the end of my story. Thank you, everyone, for listening.